What up, and welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. What's going on today, brother?
Man, golf season starts here officially. Tomorrow is when the public courses are going to open up. I think the private courses are next week. And it
Okay.
snowed today.
You're kidding me.
Snowed briefly today. Didn't stick. But that was just Montana letting me know that, you know what? Doesn't matter that you're ready to go out and play golf. I'm not ready for you to. And then you just got to sit there and take it.
It was beautiful over here.
Yeah, I bet.
Tomorrow it's going to rain. So I got a little taste of what you're going through. I'm hoping we get to the next step though, where it is getting to that point, because I'm committing, Tyson. I'm going to golf more this year than I did the last couple years. So I'm hoping that we get that nice weather soon that can get the sticks at least warmed up a bit.
And yeah, and I mean, it's good timing because we got golf season's really heating up in the eyes of the public here with the players, and then we're going into the Masters. So just want to go out there and hit bombs, man. That's all I want.
Dude, I know. I'm craving it. I'm craving it. But Tyson, golf season around the corner, like you said. Football season around the corner. Ton of news. I mean, listen, we promised you we're not talking anything about it. There's been a ton of stuff going on. We're gonna put that on the back burner until after this tournament.
Unless, Deshaun Watson finds his way Carolina,
Brady
New Orleans,
came
or
back.
whatever. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about it.
We're gonna have to talk about it at some point. Maybe when it's a dead spot in the tournament or something, we can talk about it. But right now, Tyson, we're on March Madness NCAA Championship Eve, as I would say. And if you're listening to this, it's probably day of. As Tyson and I are recording it, we are currently in the middle of the Rutgers and Notre Dame game, which is going to be the last deciding factor on who gets into the round of the field of 64. Winner of that game will be facing Alabama. Tyson and I have a big show. We're going to go through the West region, the East region, the South region, the Midwest region, kind of breaking everything down, give you an idea on what we think and how it's going to shape out. That's included some odds and some value spots that we have. We'll give you then our final four picks, our national champions. And then we're gonna circle back. We're gonna give you Cinderella teams who can make a run. Put some upset matchups in the first round that you should pay attention to, even if you're not filling out a bracket, even if you're not gambling, but just want to watch good basketball. That's something that you should make a note of. Also, some dark horse teams. We're going to close by a little money making time. We'll highlight some of the things in games that we've already bet or games that we're going to bet, so that we can be on the same page and make some money in this tournament. But man, I feel like a kid getting ready for Christmas, Tyson. I'm excited. I've been watching highlights. I've been ready to go.
I mean, it's funny because we have at work tomorrow. I got a meeting with this guy, and he said, I'm gonna come in, but let's see if we can do it around 4. And we were like, oh, okay. He's like, but we should definitely go to the bar because there's basketball. And I was like, oh my God, I love March. I mean, it's one of those things where the lady in the corner desk at your office that doesn't watch college, she wants in on the pool. She doesn't care about but it just draws everybody. The guy that, never watches college basketball, he knows what time it is because it's an event and it's like a month long and nobody really cares after the first weekend, really. Like after the round of 32 is when people start to lose interest, but it's just not, it's nonstop. Plus we all remember what channel True TV is, which is, I think, important.
Yeah, only for the couple days where it's on there, right? And then we
Right.
got to refresh ourselves. And it's like the Impractical Jokers channel or something that everybody, whatever those jokes are. But Tyson, let's get right into it. Then we got a lot to cover. Let's start with the West region here. And for those who may be not familiar with the bracket, the 1 seed in this one is Gonzaga, who happens to be the number 1 overall seed. Duke is the 2 seed, and the 3 seed here is Texas Tech. So pretty stacked region, I would say, in the West. I mean, Gonzaga is the favorite to win the tournament. Duke is, I want to say, a 5th or 6th favorite to win the entire thing right now to win this West region. So to come out of there and reach the Final Four, Gonzaga is a minus 150 favorite, followed by Duke at plus 440, Texas Tech, the 3 seed at plus 650. Then actually it goes UConn, who's the 5 seed at plus 1800. Then Arkansas, who's the 4 seed at plus 2000. Interesting when you look at there. Obviously, Gonzaga, Duke are the 2 big favorites. I'm surprised Texas Tech is that short behind Duke. In all reality, when they would have to match up, But pretty straightforward when you look at it from the odds standpoint. Minus 150 is quite a price to pay, though, for just coming out of a region. If you're feeling Gonzaga, that's a lot more juice than I think you'd want to pay in a certain situation like this, but pretty straightforward when you look at it that way.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the region to me where the top seeds are so different. Like Gonzaga plays a completely different style of basketball than Texas Tech. That's when the fun happens. That's when we get to see, okay, is this you can debate whether Texas Tech is number 1 or number 2 in defense, but I don't think you can go much further beyond that. They are the premier. Them and Houston, I think, are the 2 best defensive teams maybe in the field. But Gonzaga scores 80 points a game, and they might have to play each other. And then, oh, by the way, it's Coach K's farewell tour. We got multiple lottery picks, potential for some of these guys, especially in this West region. There's 2 guys there, Chet Holmgren and Paul Banchero, that they're playing for millions of dollars here, right? This isn't like the NBA Combine doesn't have the same effect as March Madness does for these guys for draft stock. So this is like the implications of the West region by itself, before even looking at the games, are pretty huge.
Absolutely. And a lot of interesting matchups on the lower lines, too. I mean, Boise State, Mountain West, they won it. Facing off against Memphis, I mean, what Memphis team are you going to get? That's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or, you never know if you're going to get the good or bad. I can't remember which one.
I never know. I never know who's who. They both,
yeah. Whatever it is. Jekyll and Hyde. How about that?
Yeah.
We got a Montana team. Montana State's going up against the aforementioned Texas Tech.
I mean, I was rocking my intramural championship T-shirt on Selection Sunday. I was feeling in it. Don't pick Montana State, though. Probably
no,
if you're out there. But this is
not
the most intriguing one. I think that apparently America agrees with us as far as betting goes. Is Davidson and Michigan State. I think Michigan State is limping into this thing, and 2-6, I think, in their last 8. But it's just It's almost like when you hate to compare the two because they play so different, but like when Syracuse walks in this thing as an 11 seed and then they play in the Sweet 16, it's like, of course they are.
Yeah, it's like that zone and then this and that. They got that style.
I don't think Michigan State is good enough to win 2 games in this tournament. I don't really think they're going to beat Davidson, in all honesty. And they choke a lot more than people give them credit for, but it's just a pedigree thing, right? It's just like if they can get lucky, if they're playing in the second round against a Duke team that's pooped on their leg twice in the last couple of weeks, it could be, a lot closer than people are expecting.
I like Davidson in that matchup against Michigan. I mean, I texted my brother because he's like, yeah, I'm going through the bracket, this and that. And he's like, I actually think I have Michigan State beating Duke. I'm like, well, here's the thing about Michigan State. And this is my analogy. I'm like, their offense is worse than a porta potty next to a Mexican restaurant because it's unbearable.
What time of year?
I couldn't watch it, man. Because I'm, my team's in the Big Ten, Penn State, or my school's in the Big Ten. So I got to watch this nonsense. Dude, their offense is so disgusting to watch. Like, they have floor spacers who can't make shots. Their guards who can't really penetrate. Their bigs who can't finish at the rim. Like, it's brutal.
Oh, and I think they're top 20 or something in 3-pointers this season, but that's just because they're chuckers. It's just pass, throw it off the side of the bat. It looks if 4 Russell Westbrooks found their way to be floor spacers for a team, they're going to they shoot a fine percentage, but they just shoot a lot. But that's what makes them scary, right? And it's the same thing with like an Alabama or a South Dakota State, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to shoot a ton. And if they're going in, then it's just an avalanche, right? The problem is that Davidson can do that too. And I don't want to dive too deep into this, but just not a huge fan of the Michigan State team really for the last couple of years. And this feels like the worst version of the team they're playing to me.
Completely agree. Now, Tyson, big picture wise here, if you look at the West region, Gonzaga and Duke, obviously the 1 and 2 seed. Can you realistically see any team besides those 2 coming out of this region?
Texas Tech, baby.
Okay. Now they have to play Duke.
Yep.
How can they beat Duke in your mind?
By playing Texas Tech basketball. I think Duke's more I know Duke's more talented. outside of like Gonzaga and maybe an Arizona team, Duke's sitting right there for most talented team in the country. But Texas Tech Chris Beard left, but they still play with that edge and that heart, and it's a good basketball team, but it's just one of those things to me where if you have 2 days to prepare, and in some cases, you don't even have that long, and then these are the guys on the other side of the court, and you've been playing nonstop now for some of these schools for a week and a half. It's the same reason that West Virginia is always a threat in this tournament. It's the same reason I like, you can go back through history, Cincinnati teams, for instance, back in the day, when it's just that gritty defensive style of basketball and you don't have time to get your legs, because no matter what gym you're playing in, defense travels. You might not be able to shoot in certain gyms, maybe the shot's off one day, you guys are turning the ball over. Texas Tech just plays harder than almost everybody in the tournament, and that's it. And I'm not saying they're going to win this region, but that's the reason that I would say they would be the team outside of those top two.
Yeah, Texas Tech, to me, they'd be the only team. They'd have to get past Duke. I don't know realistically if they could beat Gonzaga. Duke's a way better matchup against Gonzaga. They played earlier in the year. Duke beat Gonzaga without a half of basketball from Paolo Banchero. So that's something to keep an eye on if they do eventually match up. But I think it is Gonzaga versus Duke coming out of the West region, and it's going to be one of those two teams. So if you go back to the value thing we're looking at, maybe you want to roll the dice on Duke plus 440 compared to having to lay a little juice with Gonzaga minus 150, unless you're so certain that Gonzaga is coming out of this region going to make another Final Four. Let's go over to the East, Tyson. Now, in this one, you got Baylor as a 1 seed and the 2 seed Kentucky, the 3 seed Purdue. Interesting region here overall. And I think when you look at Baylor as a 1 seed here, for me, I think a lot of people look at last year's Baylor team and it's carried over a lot of perception on what this team is. They tried to reload. They got James Akinjo from Georgetown. It's a lot of similar pieces, except for some that left to the NBA. I don't see the same type of team as I saw last year. Now, Scott Drew, he's proven himself that he can make a deep run. He's actually been good in tournament play within the Big 12. But I think this is the weakest 1 seed out of all the ones, which makes this side of the bracket a lot wide open to me. A team I think is actually going to come out of this, I don't have a question about, is Kentucky. I think they're the best team in this region. I think they're way better than Baylor. I think they're way better than Purdue. I actually think they're probably going to steamroll their way to a Final Four out of this region.
Kentucky loses in the second round.
Oh my goodness gracious!
They're getting out of here. Oh yeah, this is the best part of this month, man. We'll get to that, but
wow.
As far as Baylor goes, if you can't shoot free throws, you can't play in March. Those are rules. We know those are the rules. That's just the way it goes. These things are going to turn into, maybe not when you're playing a 16 seed, but you find your way in the Sweet 16 that's close down the stretch. And you're one of the, I think they're among the bottom 25. They're really bad at shooting free throws. And I just don't trust it. They're a great offensive rebounding team, really. And the defense is still there. Like you mentioned, the talent level, individual player-wise, has dipped a bit. But again, there's simple things in this tournament. I think that, it is March Madness, but a lot of the times it's because we overinflate some of these things these teams do well, when history has shown us they don't matter all that much in March. Like, offensive rebounding is great and helps you win the game. But if that's all you're good at, then that's not going to win you. It has to be, a certain host of things that you have to all put together. And if you can't shoot free throws, Derrick Rose is sitting there. We don't have the Mario Chalmers shot. You can go back through all of these years, and every year there's somebody missing free throws and losing to a lower seed.
Absolutely. That's well said. And another point too, Baylor won last year. There hasn't been a repeat champion in this tournament since Florida, the Joakim Noah, Billy Donovan, the Florida years. That's something to keep an eye on as well, or keep in mind as you're filling this out. Now, I'm going to go through this. I gave odds for the West. Let me do it for the East real quick. I got on a little bit of a tangent, but my favorite, Kentucky, who I think is going to come out, is the favorite at plus 250, followed by the 1 seed in Baylor at plus 260. Purdue, interesting. We'll talk about them a little bit, Tyson. They're sitting at plus 500. UCLA, interesting up and down a season so far this year. They're the 4 seed in this region. They're at plus 600. And then Texas, talk about up and down, not really know what you're going to get here. The 6 seed, they're plus 1,100. But getting past Kentucky and Baylor, kind of wide open, get very long odds. You have Kentucky losing. Now, I'm curious if you have a long shot, if you're going to call this in your mind kind of a crazy thing. You're not high on Baylor. You have Kentucky losing the second round, going off the board a little bit or deeper into the board in this region in the East. Who do you got?
You know what's funny too is I don't really like Purdue. I tried
I
so
don't like
hard
them
to
all.
talk myself into them. I think they have the top end talent is obviously there, right? I mean, we know that, but it's just that everyone else is like, I can't watch somebody 7.5 feet tall have the ball dumped down to Hunter Dickinson and he spins to the left and dunks over and over and over and over again, and then go into the tournament thinking, okay, this is the guy that's going to protect the paint for a national champion. I don't think UCLA is as good as they were last year.
No.
I hate this region. And I hate the fact that Seth Davis opened his mouth on CBS and said that he thinks St. Mary's is going to come out of here, because I like their chances, but they got a tough matchup to start with too. I still think, I think it's going to be, this is the one, and I'm going to call my shot. I think whoever wins that Murray State San Francisco matchup is going to be playing Baylor for the right to go to the Final Four.
Wow, I love that.
And
I love that.
This is, it just, I know I just talked about free throw shooting with Baylor, and I know Murray State doesn't shoot great free throws either. Kentucky's 133rd in the country. And if you think they're not going to get themselves into a dogfight against the winner of those that first round matchup, I think it's going to be Murray State. I would prefer if it was San Francisco. I'll be honest about that. I'm a much bigger fan of theirs to watch, but Murray State's good, man. They're, I think, top 20 in offense and defense as far as total scoring and then points allowed. And they're just one of those teams where we see this sometimes in college basketball. Wichita State's a good example where you randomly get a piece of high-end talent, like with Butler, for instance, and that person propels you into the tournament, and you kind of get some buzz a little bit, but then all of a sudden you're back a couple years later with maybe 2 second-round NBA draft picks, some flyer guys, but it's the culture that's been built.
Absolutely.
And I don't think Murray State's here right now if there wasn't a COVID year, to be honest with you. I think this team has been playing basketball with each other for so long, and same thing with San Francisco. I'm taking the cohesive unit that's going to get after you on the defensive end of the court there, and I'm going to pick them 10 times out of 10 to beat your Kentucky Wildcats.
Wow. Okay. Well, here's something that's intriguing. So right now in the odds and the futures to win the East, San Francisco's at plus 3,200 to win. Murray State's at plus 5,000. So in the futures market, San Francisco has a lot more juice, a lot more
that's ridiculous
on their side than Murray State does, at least by what the odds makers expect. So what it's telling me is maybe I should take San Francisco in that matchup, but it's telling me too that they don't think it's that crazy for San Francisco to beat Kentucky. I mean, they're at about 7 cents less favorite than Virginia Tech, who if they get by Texas, they're a little bit on an easier path. Got to get through Purdue, then you're kind of on your way home. But interesting region, as you said, Tyson. I have Kentucky coming out of it. You have, it seems like San Francisco. I mean, that's your team. You might as well ride with them.
Yeah, I got to. It's just I know, and I told you this as soon as the bracket came out. I think I texted you a 4-letter word in all caps. This is like, I hate when the committee does it, and they know they do this, where they take 2 teams that could potentially flip this entire thing on their heads, because San Francisco could be playing in the West and Murray State could be playing in the South, and then they wouldn't have to face each other until the national championship or whatever. But they say, you know what, let's put these guys completely in a geographical region that makes no sense, and then let's make them play each other right away. Why? Because we make more money when Kentucky's playing in the Sweet 16 than we do. You know what I mean? It's just, see them the way that Murray State was a top 25 team at the end of the season. And they got, this was the quote that I heard over and over again, is they were getting respect from the committee, putting them as a 7th seed. Well, the coaches in the AP thought they deserved a 6 or better. So what respect is this?
San Francisco's a good matchup against Murray State too. I mean, this is brutal for both of them.
They're a good matchup against everybody. And don't read too deep into San Francisco, Gonzaga. Those games were Gonzaga blew them out. In the second one, it ended as a 7-point game. It wasn't a 7-point game. So don't go looking through box scores and be like, oh, well, they played with these guys. Well, they didn't really. It's just that's I think a trap that a lot of people fall into in March. Is you go, oh, I didn't watch Indiana play a bunch, and then you go back through box scores, and then it's like, well, they only lost to such and such by 4. Well, they got the shit kicked out of them for 37 minutes.
Right, and then the other thing too is like they've only been playing Big Ten schools for the past 2 months.
Right.
Now you got to go play someone from the West Coast, different style of ball, it's different matchup. I mean, you saw Wyoming, right? They were great in the Mountain West. They played Indiana in the play-in. The length and athleticism and size, Indiana was too much. They were turning the ball over, and their point guard Hunter Maldonado, who never turns the rock over, had 10 turnovers. Like this is what you got to think about. This for everybody out there when you're filling out these brackets, you're looking at these matchups. You can't look at what they did in conference play. You got to handicap it different. And before you move on, you see Notre Dame, Rutgers going to overtime. It's perfect, Tyson. I mean, it's on the eve of March Madness. We got an overtime game already. It's great.
And I will say, just to piggyback on the point you made about, teams playing in different styles of basketball depending on the region. Some of your favorite, not you personally, but the listeners, some of your favorite college basketball players aren't actually nice like the way that you think they are. Yeah. Some of these guys are going to get exposed as soon as they run up. TJD last night from Indiana. It was kind of like, how's this going to go? And then he took over the game and he did his thing. But some of these guys show up and they've been averaging 27 points a game in the MAC. And then they just get absolutely crushed right away by some guy who we were told was going to be the 35th pick in the NBA draft. And by the end of this thing, it's like, oh no, Johnny Juzang last year. Mm-hmm. How much money did that kid make in a month and a half?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm curious to see who it's going to be this year because there's a lot of returners too. It's gonna be interesting. So let's move over to the South now, Tyson. And the number 1 seed here is Arizona, who had a really good year under first-year head coach Tommy Lloyd. Kind of resurgent for that program, what they've been able to do. The 2 seed here, Villanova, very senior-led team, older. Jay Wright got his guys back. And then the 3 seed in this is Tennessee. An underseeded Tennessee team, I think would be fair to say. Probably should have been on the 2 line, especially after winning the SEC tournament. They kind of have a favorable draw, in my opinion, though. So I think it could be worse for them on this 3 line. So this is fine, I think. And going through the odds, just give it to you real quick. Now, to come out of this in the South region winner, plus 145 for Arizona. So you're still getting some juice there. Villanova's the second favorite, 2 seed at plus 490. And Tennessee only 10 cents off at plus 500. Cool. Then the 5 seed, Houston plus 550. The 4 seed, Illinois at plus 1,000, which is just shocking to me. Interesting region here. I think when you look at it gambling wise, future wise, I think Arizona's got to be the odds on favorite. It looks like their path to the Elite 8 Final Four, the only hiccup they may have is Houston if they run into them. But other than that, it looks like Arizona's a shoo-in for the Final Four out of this region. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because you never know in this tournament.
Right, exactly. One thing I will say that I like a lot about Arizona is they're not a great – their biggest weakness is going to be on the glass. If you watch them, that's pretty clear. But they're not really running into anybody that should give them, immense problems on the glass in this region. And then I love this Tennessee team, and I think that they have as good a shot as Arizona even to win this region. I think they're that good. The Longwood, what is it? The Racer? What is their Longwood something?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
They got a Mustang mascot or something. Lancers,
yeah.
They are, they're top 5, maybe top 6 or something like that, and they are in shooting the 3 ball, and they just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And it feels like the 14-3 is the new 12-5. As far as we see one every year, or the 11-6 or whatever. It got popularized when Hawaii beat Cal, and then it just seems like over time it's just – so that's one to watch, I think, because it wouldn't be March Madness if a team that if Tennessee, who just ran through the SEC, made everybody look like, you shouldn't even be in this conference with me. And then they might go out and get rained on by a group of guys that just look like they came out the YMCA.
That's a good thing to keep an eye on stylistically. I mean, Tennessee, they do have trouble scoring at times. If they get behind and it's 3 balls, that's the recipe. We've seen it. How many times? I mean, the Kansas teams that lost to Northern Iowa, what was the secret there? A slow-moving Kansas team can't really play from behind. All of a sudden, Northern Iowa's hitting bombs, and you're like, okay, this team can't come back. You're in trouble. Another one I think here. Go ahead.
What's his last name? Ollie what?
Ollie Watkins?
Farouk Manesh. I thought that was in game. The guy from Northern Illinois, the team that beat Kansas.
You might be right. I think.
I'm right. I thought that was ingrained in all of our memories because that was the dude. He faked that pass and shot that one with like 25 seconds left.
Okay,
yeah. That's the coldest guy that ever played.
Well, how about my boys at Dunk City, FGCU?
That's true.
Another one here. We got some, and we'll go through this, but Tyson brought it up. The kind of matchups to keep an eye on. Chattanooga and Illinois, that 4-13. That's intriguing. I'm sorry, the 4 and 13 seed. That's intriguing to me. Illinois has a lot of size, but so does Chattanooga. Illinois has good guards, so does Chattanooga, and they also have a lot of transfers that have come from high majors down to play at Chattanooga. That's how their coach has kind of put together what they've been able to accomplish in this program. So these guys know what it takes to play high level ball. These guys want to play high level ball. These guys think they're good enough to play high level ball. They just transferred to Chattanooga to go either play another year or to prove themselves they can play at high level ball again. That's a scary team in Chattanooga. Very, very scary team. And I wanted to highlight that matchup. You love Houston. Are you nervous about the UAB game at all?
Not really, which might be silly. But I think that UAB right now is getting a ton of public love, and rightfully so. But I think that part of it is because right before conference play started, Houston got embarrassed. I think it was Memphis beat them 20 points or something like that.
Bad.
And that was kind of that was the thing, honestly, that bumped them. There was talk of them maybe being a 3 seed. They win that game, run the table. Now they're down to the 5. We're a little bit lower on them. They guard, and I'm going to take the high major team that guards over the mid major every single time. And yeah, it doesn't work all the time, but the recipe there is pretty good from a betting perspective, at least. Like, it's when you bet on a lazy Kentucky team or the Duke team that lost to CJ McCollum or whatever, because they're not guarding, because they don't think they have to show up here and play. That's Houston's whole thing. They win the game 4-2. It doesn't matter. And just to touch, like I was saying earlier, your favorite player might not be as good as you think he is. Malachi Smith and those guards over at Chattanooga have showed up every single time they've had to play in a big game. You can go run through the box score: 20 at VCU, 36 against Murray State. These guys play for real. So that part is scary, because this is going to be a team, like you said, that just doesn't back down. So if I'm looking to play them in the first round, that's probably the scariest 13 out there to me.
Yeah, my biggest concern for Houston is the loss of Marcus Sasser, older guard, and the guard Trayvon Mark.
Yeah,
losing those guys hurt. I don't know how they've continued with their depth to continue to win and just win at a high level. They own this Conference USA, even with supposed this upstart Memphis team, young, flashy. Houston, they lost to them twice in the regular season. When it mattered most, they kicked their ass and ready to go for a tournament where Kelvin Sampson and his Houston team they thrive in tournament play. Scary team to keep an eye on. Potentially would match up with Arizona. In the Sweet 16, I believe. That's an interesting matchup if they get there. Besides, so Arizona, Villanova, is that a team you can see making a deep run to challenge this region?
Well, I guess, yeah. To make a deep run, obviously, I can talk myself into Villanova and UConn every March. They are who people pretend. Like I was talking about Syracuse and Michigan State. That's like, if you check national championships over the last 20 years, you'll be real surprised at who you find at the top of those lists, because It's not the teams that are, in the news. It is UConn. It is Villanova. So I wouldn't be surprised in that sense, but it's too much of a one-man show for a Villanova team for me. It just feels like they go as Gillespie goes. And if he has an off game, it's not going to look be as pretty, I think, as most 2 seeds. I don't think most 2 seeds are that reliant upon one guy, with potentially the exception of Auburn, but that guy is a little different.
A little different than Gillespie.
It's a little different. I don't believe Illinois can win this region. I think that plus 1,000 is insane. I think you'd have to double that number for me to think about it. So to me, I think this is a good region, and there are good teams in this region, but I just think Arizona is going to get to the Sweet 16 or something. Until they have to play Houston, if they have to play Houston, they don't get challenged until late in the tournament.
That's what I think too. And I think if I had to right now, I haven't filled out my bracket still, but I'm leaning towards Arizona to come out. I know it's chalky. I know they're inexperienced. And that the concern is, like you said, Tyson, if somebody comes in, rebounds, makes them play physically, that's where you can be in major trouble if you're Arizona. It could come later in the tournament, which is why I'd lean towards them coming out, and you can get them at plus money, come out of this region. I like that as well. So I'll lean there. And let's finish off, Tyson, before we get into our final 4 picks with the Midwest region. 1 seed here, Kansas. 2 seed here, Auburn. The 3 seed here is Wisconsin, and the 4 seed's Providence. Interesting look if you take a peek at the betting angle. Kansas is plus 200 to come out of this region, which is shocking to me. Auburn at plus 250. Iowa, I mean, they're the 5 seed. They're plus 420. And let's go through it.
That's because the people betting on Iowa to win this region are high out of their minds.
Gotta be.
420.
I mean, Wisconsin's the 3 seed. They're plus 1,100. LSU without Will Wade. I'm running through this because I'm shocked by these numbers. They're plus 1,400. Providence is the 4 seed. They're plus 3,900. What does that say about what the odds makers think about their chance to win against South Dakota State? This is crazy to me in terms of looking at value here. I think Kansas is far and above the best team in this region. Like we mentioned with Arizona, I don't see them getting challenged at all until they get to Elite 8.
Yeah.
Before there even is even close to a challenge for them. Them at plus 200 is very, very enticing to me. Is there any other team? I mean, Auburn, I guess technically, you got Jabari Smith, but besides that in this region, Tyson, anything else that catches your eye?
Well, I do want to say that a week or 2 ago, whenever we last did a little preview on what we thought the tournament was going to look like, you said, I've seen Duke teams that have won it all, and this looks like a Duke team that's won it all. And you were right when you said that about Duke. I've seen Kansas teams that won it all, and this looks a lot like the Kansas teams that won it all. And nobody's paying attention.
I know. It's crazy.
No, it doesn't. You're getting more hype for Iowa because they look good for 4 games going into this thing than from a team who, with the exception of a 2-week stretch there, kicked the shit out of everybody they played, up and down the court.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I do think that Providence is that. I think that line is fair. I think this is the worst 4 seed in the tournament by a good margin. The things that they're good at, they're not elite at. They're just above average at some things, and they are the worst shooting team in the field. And they're matching up against the South Dakota State team who puts the ball in the hoop.
Yep.
Score with us. That's what they're going to do, and I think that's why they're the trendy upset pick. All right here on this bet slip I have today, I took South Dakota State plus 2.5, and I only got minus 139 on a 13-4 matchup. That's a bit ridiculous. And I could see Auburn just off star power, but look, I think Wisconsin's worse than people think. And I think Johnny, what's his name?
Johnny Davis,
that ankle injury or that when he got stepped on, that looked worse to me than what they're leading on here.
He had a bad stretch after the injury. I agree with you. Looking through everything here, first of all, I think Iowa, you're right. I do think they're fraudulent. I'm looking at a spot in my bracket where I can have them exit this tournament. It honestly might be against South Dakota State. I just don't see it with that. They don't defend. We see it every year. Why am I falling for Iowa again? Yes, they score 1 million points. It's awesome. They can't guard a chair. You need to do that in this tournament. Come on.
That is.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to keep an eye on USC against Auburn in the second round. And USC doesn't have the same team last year with Evan Mobley and whoa, look at this. It's a good team. Look at that. Look at that name. Similar type team than what they had last year. Added a couple transfers. They still have Isaiah Mobley, the older brother of Evan Mobley. They're intriguing in terms of they've had big wins and they've looked good and have a good profile. But do they have enough to get them to the next step? I think their guard play is subpar, but it just so happens that I think Auburn's guard play is really bad, and that helps out a lot.
I do think I mean, we'll get to them when we just talk dark horses, but front court is where everybody, their mind immediately wants to go in this tournament because, like, we can point to the big guys that won the title, but there's a lot of good guards in college, and LSU's got the best backcourt in this region, I think, or at least one of them. So that's something. I don't think they're a very good team. I think they 7-10 over the last 17 or something like that. Fired their coach, but if you can't turn them over, good luck.
True, that's true. All right, well, Tyson, let's get into our Final Four picks then. Let's share with everybody what we think and what we have coming out of our bracket. So for me personally, coming out of the West, I have Duke, of course. I got the old shirt on right now. I have Duke out of the West. Out of the East, I have Kentucky, like I vehemently said, which Tyson immediately tried to shut down. I'm gonna go with Arizona out of the top for now. I think that may be a mistake, but I'm gonna say that's what I'm on. We're gonna have to lock it in pretty soon. And then coming out of the Midwest, I have Kansas. I think I think they're really, really good. And you said it well, Tyson. They look like a team that's going to win it all or has that profile. So I'm on Duke out of the West, Kentucky out of the East, Arizona coming out of the South, and then Kansas out of the Midwest. That's who I like. Tyson, share your Final Four, then we'll get into our picks.
I got Gonzaga coming out of the West. I know that might not be music to your ears there, or maybe it is. Maybe you're trying to fade me for the tournament, but I think they're here now. Reputation wise, I don't think them making the Final Four is like this big scary thing anymore. It's a national championship, the different discussion, but I do think this team is special. In the East, this is where I'm at, man. It's the winner of Murray State, San Francisco, and I think I'm gonna rock with Murray State.
Oh man.
But I think whoever wins this one is playing Baylor, I think, for the right to get there. And to be honest, part of the reason I have to do this is because the rest of my Final Four is super boring. Because in the South I have Arizona, and in the Midwest I have Kansas. And you can't have 4 1 seeds. You can't have 3 1 seeds in a 2. This is March.
It is tough. I mean, looking at it though, I mean, we broke down the bracket, and that's why I want to do it for everybody listening, so we can get to this process here. Because you take into account the odds, you take into account the matchups. It's so hard, and I know, well, this is going to be crazy because it's so even keeled. It's like, yeah, but maybe like the mediocre, the like good teams, they beat each other, and then the great teams, oh, we just play this team. Okay, we know how to beat the profile of this team. Boom, get to the next level. I can see that happening more often in this type of tournament than, oh man, we have South Dakota State who made it to the Final Four. This year's crazy. Oh, we're gonna have Chattanooga in the other region, something like that. So I don't blame you there, man. I can see it happen. I mean, I was pretty chalky too. I mean, I a 2 seed, a 2 seed, a 1 and a 1.
When TCU beats Arizona, we're gonna have to come back on here and say we're sorry. Because they gotta play if TCU wins, like how is that fair for a 1 seed? You're playing TCU's not great, but when they play the best teams in the country, they're the best team in the like they just beat good teams.
They really do. They really do. All right, national champion here, Tyson. This is who we have hoisting this thing at the end. I have Duke over Kansas, and you can homer this, but two teams who match their profiles of what their national champions look like. I have Duke over Kansas because I think the matchup, it works out a lot better for Duke than it does Kansas. They're a little bit bigger across the guard line. Duke can play with Kansas down low. David McCormick, Mark Williams, that's a good battle. Bankero, Obaji, similar profile, but Wendell Moore is bigger than Remy Martin. AJ Griffin's got more length than Braun. Kind of a similar type of deal that they have as well. But I think Duke has more talent, and I have Duke over Kansas for my national championship.
I got Kansas over Gonzaga.
Kansas over Gonzaga. Can you imagine being Gonzaga and losing 2 in a row?
Here's the deal, and I think, as far as Kansas goes, I just think Agbaji's going to find his three. He hasn't been shooting the three well in March, but that was when he was shooting it well during the year. First of all, that dude looked like a lock to finish as the National Player of the Year at times this season. Kind of falling back to earth a bit, but all it takes, if he finds his rhythm, and look, we discussed the bracket. It feels like they have more tune-up games than the rest of the 1 seeds before things have to get serious here. If they can get rolling, I think this Kansas team, look, it's every year. It's the most boring good team in the country is going to cut down the net and walk away. And we talk ourselves into the sexy storyline all the time. Even going into the national championship game last year, I sat on a podcast with you and 3 other people, and we all picked Gonzaga, and Baylor boat raced them out of the stadium. So I'm going with my gut, man, and my gut has said Kansas since really tip off pretty close to tip of the regular season here.
Update, double OT for Notre Dame and Rutgers. So we got more free basketball as we get closer and closer to tip off of tomorrow. And it's Michigan, Colorado State for the first game. By the way, I think Colorado State's going to destroy Michigan in that game. I can't believe they're a favorite. I mean, to me, that's shocking. I can't believe that.
It's funny because preseason, Michigan was my futures ticket that I held. So I watched a lot of Michigan basketball this season, and I don't know if I've hated a team full of 18 to 20-year-old kids as much in my life. I hate this Michigan team. They should be so much better than they are. And if they put things together and win a couple games in the tournament, I'm going to be pissed because this was a wasted season for the Michigan Wolverines. And by the way, there's a reason that Colorado State's a 6 seed. They're a good basketball team. They've been a good basketball team all year. Michigan's been a good basketball team 8 times.
Like in December.
Yeah.
Jesus, what are we doing here?
And look, man, I will, if there's prop bets you can get for Hunter Dickinson grabbing the ball, power dribble, drop step to the left and a dunk, it's going to be over 5. That's the only move that works for Michigan.
Yeah, but not on my boy David Roddy. That's my boy. I don't think so.
It's going to be fun, man.
We'll talk more about this in Money Making Time.
Yeah, we will.
Cinderella teams upset watch. We'll go through it a little bit. We'll highlight some upset games that potentially you should pay attention to, but some Cinderella teams, Tyson. I mean, we can kind of classify some of these as dark horse as well. I know they're a little bit different, but we'll kind of use this umbrella term Cinderella and we'll distinguish between who we think a dark horse is and who we think a true Cinderella is. And for me, Cinderella has got to be San Francisco.
Yeah.
10 seed, you get by Murray State, who's a public darling. Then if you in the Sweet 16, all of a sudden you're facing either an overhyped Purdue team, a Virginia Tech team that's hot but it's beatable, or a Texas team that everybody seems to hate because they were so bad during the regular season. That's a recipe for a glass slipper, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I've expressed my love for the Dons and the Racers throughout this podcast, so I'm going to have to go somewhere else here. And to me, dark horse means a team that can win the whole thing. Cinderella means a team that could be fun, and I like the profile of Indiana.
Okay.
They have a profile to me of, look, very good high-end talent, well coached, right? For the first time in a long time,
yep.
We can say Tom Crean's been fired twice since the last time Indiana made the tournament, by the way. Remember, he was everybody's favorite coach in college basketball.
D. Wade.
Yeah, exactly. And they're playing a team that look, man, St. Mary's is good, and they're good like for real this time. It's not like this is a good team. They're good for real, but they haven't had to play anybody outside of Gonzaga and maybe San Francisco, but not really. That's as athletic as Indiana can be at the big positions, because it's one thing playing, some guy that he was a 3-star recruit, but he's 7 feet tall and he moves slow. And then this Indiana front line, they got some guys that are jumping out of the gym.
Yeah.
And I want to see how that is going to kind of play out there, because you mentioned the Florida Gulf Coast team before, but it's if you can make it rain and you're athletic, you can win games in this tournament.
Absolutely. Let's another Cinderella team. I mean, we talked about them a little bit, but South Dakota State. I mean, listen, first team ever to never lose a game in conference in the Summit League. In their division, they went 18-0. They haven't lost since 2021, like early. They're 30-4. A lot of those were to good schools out of conference and preseason tournaments. They get in the conference play, they eviscerate teams. They're playing a Providence team. We went over. You mentioned it, Tyson. Probably the weakest 4 seed in a long time. Definitely weakest in this bracket. You get past them. I think then you play an Iowa team who refuses to defend. They're allergic to it, frankly. You get past them. You're in the Sweet 16, facing up against Kansas, big bad Kansas. Who wouldn't want the little guy, South Dakota State? Right. We've seen it in the past too with these types of Midwest teams, or why couldn't they do it again? That's a Cinderella. Teams are going to, if they can get past Providence, people are going to fall in love with this team because they score the ball, they share the ball, and they play hard.
They do. And then I guess one more just to really fire you up is Davidson, I think, can win a couple games in this tournament. And I don't think there'd be anything more fitting than for Coach K's last game to be losing to a high-scoring, volume-shooting Davidson Wildcat team. I mean, it's like, look, if they were as good as we're making them sound, then they wouldn't be 10 seeds, 12 seeds, okay? There's a reason we're only talking about the positives. Yeah, Davidson has huge weaknesses. All these teams do.
Right.
But they just shoot the shit out of the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it doesn't matter who's in the gym. We've all played pickup where it's like, I guess, like, this is the way it's going today. Like, these dudes don't miss. And then there's 7 of them on Davidson. So they have, like, more everyone's picking them, I think, because it's Steph Curry, right? That's still in our head. And it's like, oh, but this is a team of shooters. Yes. This isn't like one guy chewing up to the gym to shoot from 35 feet. It's 5 out sometimes.
And here's a little storyline too. Foster Lawyer, one of the guards for Davidson, he transferred from Michigan State. So a little revenge spot for him. That's something to keep an eye on, keep mind on there.
I think half the field transferred in this tournament.
Oh, it's just a revenge tournament. They're going to be slaughtering each other. It's like, oh yeah. Now, upset watch some games I want to highlight that I think are going to be really good games. And the first one that jumps out to me, obviously, is Chattanooga and Illinois. That's going to be a fun one. You got Illinois who can shoot it, who can bang it down low, and you got Chattanooga who can counteract a lot of that. I'm interested to see that one. That's a really, really one that I'm going to highlight on my bracket and make sure I sit down and watch that.
Yeah, I think so. And hopefully, Silvio De Sousa gets through this game without any I'm being serious because he's a good player, but that's like what's in people's minds is like, oh, this is the guy that fought half the Kansas State team a couple years ago. I think that game, the Murray State, San Francisco game, Davidson, Michigan State, those are probably the 3 that I'm most excited for in the first round. And shout out to the NCAA. I think they're all on at different times. I'll have to double check that.
Let me see here. Well, I think one's on a different day. Illinois on the 18th. Did you say Davidson's late on the 18th, 9:40? Yeah, you get a 3-hour window there. And the Murray State is tomorrow on Thursday at 9:40. So yeah, you get some slots there. So they did it just for you, Tyson. I think
there you go.
They're doing it just for you. What about Arkansas, Vermont? I mean, that was really interesting to me. I know it doesn't pique your interest as much. You're a big fan of Arkansas. I was coming in. I said that's a team to keep an eye on, but maybe it's probably recency bias. But the way that Arkansas finished down the stretch has me questioning their entire approach to tournament play and to what even this team is. I know JD Notte is a good scorer, and I know you got some good size. I've seen Vermont play. Some of it is due to degenerate reasons, but I've seen Vermont play. They're good, man. I mean, they rebound. You talk about team basketball. You've been talking about it a lot. They play that. They have size. I think this could be a team in a game where it's like, oh, Vermont won. What the heck? It's like, actually, if you look at it, it's not that shocking.
Yeah, no, I guess I can see from that perspective. I just love Eric Musselman, and I
Me
just
too.
think
I love him too.
I think he's a good tournament coach. I think that the worst tournament team is back, and they're overseeded again. And Ohio State is going to
Oh,
lose in the first round of the tournament. Who do you think I was going with?
I was curious about that because we have to talk about the sister jeans of Loyola
Oh,
Chicago
I
at some
know.
point in this program.
I'm not, like I said on the last one. I said they're not as good as the team, so don't get your hopes up. And then the committee gave them Ohio State, and
I know.
this is like the reason that Michigan's in this tournament is because they beat Ohio State. Ohio State's not good either.
No.
So it's like, we're going to overseed two teams. And, maybe, just maybe, I'm not happy with Ohio State losing to Oral Roberts last year as the 2 seed going into this thing. And they're worse this year. And again, similar to Michigan, very talented at the top end there of the roster as far as, college players go. But they don't play together, man. It's just like 5 dudes playing basketball, and it was very evident, especially in the conference that they're in, where you got to be playing together to get through.
Last one I'll highlight here is Wisconsin versus Colgate, 3-14. Oh, what do you mean? Why Colgate? Listen, Colgate shoots the shit out of the ball. Wisconsin, you mentioned it, without Johnny Davis being the trigger man, I think they're susceptible. The spread's 8. I think it's going to go down to 7 by the time it's tipped off on Friday. Colgate is very live in this game. They cover numbers. They win. I mean, if I'm Wisconsin, especially with their style of play, their tournament history, this game is something I'm keeping an eye on big time. And I would not be shocked at all if Colgate wins this game.
God, that would be awesome.
Be awesome.
It's just 2 years in a row of Colgate showing up, kicking the door down, and people are like, what the hell? Plus, I mean, it's one of those deals. I hate Wisconsin basketball. I don't know why. I can't. It's not.
You didn't like the Ryan ball, right? Like the crap they were running.
No, all that, and then felt like Nigel Hayes was in college for like 41 years. It's just it's too much.
Well, Brad Davidson has been in college for 41 years. I mean, so get these guys out of here. I agree. Update: Notre Dame has beaten Rutgers. We have our team of our tournament of 64. They'll be facing off against Alabama.
Here's one we didn't discuss pre-show, but every year I think I didn't even look it up. Who cares? The playing games seemingly produce somebody going to the Elite Eight or Sweet 16 every year. Is that Indiana? Is that Notre Dame?
That's Indiana.
That's Indiana.
I think so. Notre Dame defensively, I'm concerned about when Rutgers comes in and scores. Granted, double OT, damn near 90 points. That's problematic for me. And they're going up against an Alabama team. I guess the good news is well, they're allergic to defense as well. So this might be an NBA total. In all honesty, I mean, holy smokes! But I think Indiana just on their profile, and if you look at their matchup, St. Mary's, I think a weaker type of 5 seed. I think it's a really good matchup for Indiana when you look at that, and then potentially in the next round facing a UCLA team who may struggle with Akron. I like that. I like that matchup for Indiana too. That team right there screams Sweet 16 to me.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's just that's something I didn't even think about, but it does. It's like every year, one of these playing teams, we're just like, what the hell? And then 2 weeks have gone by in this thing, and they're still playing.
It's crazy. UCLA last year, VCU, like it happens all the time. All right, Tyson, let's close it out, baby. You know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's money making time. First round. See that? That's
Tyson's CBS ticket.
He's gonna hit that. He's not even gonna call me anymore. He's gonna be like, "Who's this?" He's gonna get a new phone.
Yeah.
He's gonna act different. That's all I know.
Hey man, well the juice isn't so great over here in Montana though. So I'll remember you after this hits. Yeah.
Just because of the juice. Well, thanks. Shout out Montana for the juice. So Tyson can remember his good pal. Let's start with games happening on Thursday, tomorrow, I guess, or if you listen to today. Some of the games that really jump out to me, and it's a good matchup, man. Gonzaga, Georgia State. I'm going to be on Georgia State. I'm going to hold a ticket here on them. It's dangerous when you face against a Gonzaga team who can probably overpower them with size. But Georgia State has really good guards. Senior-ridden team. I think they're going to be able to penetrate and make this a little sweaty at the beginning for Gonzaga, and I think that'll hold them up enough to cover that 23.5 number. Gonzaga may win by 20, but I don't think they get past that 23.5 number. I'm going to take Georgia State plus the points.
I like it. That's a sneaky strategy. I think that people, you get too caught up in what you're doing. And on another note, I guess it's similar to that. Don't be afraid to bet the 1 seed down to 11.5. Like, if you want to make money, then make money. Like, don't be like, oh, I can't touch this one. Yeah, you can. It might not be as much as you want, but that's how you turn it into something. I think one tomorrow that I'm interested in. First of all, I think the over in the Indiana St. Mary's game. I have it here at 120.5. I don't know what it is.
About 126 right now.
I'm still fine with that. I think this is going to be a decently high scoring game there. Just two teams, and I think that's the beauty of the playing games that I think goes undervalued by people is you get the tournament jitters out already. You already played an NCAA tournament game. Like, how many first halves do we sit through of these things that are just so shitty?
Yeah.
Because everybody's nervous, you're tight. Second half is normally magic, right? But I think being able to play that game, St. Mary's been here before. I think that both of them know what they're getting into and they're going to score points.
On FanDuel right now, Georgia State's already down to 22.5. So open at 27.5, 5-point swing down to 22.5. Get on that now if you want to ride with me. I'm going to start with the first game of the tournament, Tyson, or the first game of the first round, I guess, if we're considering these playing games part of the tournament now. I'm going to be on Colorado State money line at minus 102. I don't think Michigan's good. I think people look at that like, oh, Michigan, I'll pick that upset. I know them. Colorado State's athletic. Colorado State defends. And what does Michigan struggle to do all season? That is score the basketball. Colorado State's going to make it difficult. Then they're going to go down and hit jumpers. David Roddy is a perfect matchup for Dickinson. He can move his feet, and he's going to be the most athletic person on the court. You're going to watch this kid and be like, yo, there's some highlights you haven't seen him do. Can't believe it. That's who this kid is. I love Colorado State in this one. I have the money line minus 102 winning this one.
See, I put that down somewhere. I know I'm rocking with you, but I can't remember if I took it a step further. Regardless, I do like that. Oh, I got Colorado State minus 1.5. So I'm with you. Essentially the same deal.
Yeah.
And another one that I like tomorrow, San Diego State's going to beat Creighton.
I think so too.
And I think that I'm comfortable giving 2 and 2.5 points in that match. I think Creighton might be sneaky one of the most seeded teams in the tournament this year. Just again, it's a team where when they're on, but what they do well, they don't do elite. And I just think that San Diego State's just well-rounded enough to get by to win this game. And frankly, it's those 8-9 matchups might as well be flipping a coin at some of these guys. And I don't like Creighton. I think they're a week 8 seed or 9 seed there. So give me San Diego State.
I want to take Kentucky minus 18 against St. Peter's. This screams blowout to me. It's just tailor-made for one of these big blowouts early. St. Peter's, they kind of lucked their way in on this thing. You know, it should have been probably Iona or Monmouth's spot. Well, they didn't win the tournament. St. Peter's did, so they get the chance to play Kentucky. I think this is easily a 20, 25 plus point win for Kentucky here. I will easily lay the 18 and not even worry about it.
Yeah. And another one, since we're kind of playing the lines here, wait till right before tip-off for this New Mexico State Connecticut line to close as much as the public wants it to close, and then go hammer UConn. I think that UConn is just going to – first of all, I think that UConn's going to win the rebound battle by 25 in this game.
Yeah.
Like they're going to crush them on the boards. And if you haven't watched UConn play, they are stupid athletic everywhere. They're throwing lobs from half court. Like this is not the Jeremy Lamb or Kimba team that can win the whole thing, I think. But this is the team that can play with anybody. And for some reason, the public is all over the upset here.
I like Akron plus 13.5 against UCLA. This opened at minus 15. It's gone down 1.5. Screaming a little bit of sharp money on Akron to me. UCLA struggled to get out of the gates a little bit this year. Akron jumps out very efficiently and exceptionally well. They did that. There's supposed to be a Toledo spot here. Toledo actually in the NIT got blown out. So maybe Akron, a little bit better than people gave them credit for preseason. At 24-9, they're kind of that hybrid between a good scorer in the MAC and also can defend. So I'm going to take them plus the points in this one. I think this could be a less than 10-point game that UCLA pulls out, but Akron makes them sweat it.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of the tournament here is by the time that somebody listens to these, if you listen to these after the first day of the tournament, you're going to be like, these guys are idiots. But
or geniuses.
Yeah, that's true. You might be like, how did they both go undefeated? I don't know. I think one more here for me, at least on the first day, just looking at it. I don't like Marquette. And I'm not a big fan of North Carolina either this year, but I do think they're better. And I think they closed the season better. And I want to watch, new coach in the tournament, see how Big Hugh does. It really closing down the stretch. North Carolina was like, okay, let's flip this thing on, right? We're 5-star kids, like let's play like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd take them at minus 3.5, something like that.
Minus 3.5 on the number, right? And it's what it's currently out on FanDuel. That's our Thursday. Tyson, let's go over to Friday, round it out before we get into the second round matchups. What jumps out to me, I actually really like LSU minus 4. I think that's going to continue to go the way of Iowa State. I'm not afraid of that at all. I mean, it opened minus 5. I think it went all the way down to minus 3.5. It's creeping back up LSU. I'm going to get on them. I'll lay it with minus 4. I mean, if you want to be safer, just take them to win at minus 178 on the money line. I don't have a worry that Will Wade, their head coach, is not here. Their assistant's taking over. It's going to be kind of seamless. Iowa State just can't score the ball very well, and LSU can. So I think that negates what Iowa State's defense can do to them. You mentioned their backcourt's exceptional. They're not going to get sped up by any pressure that's get thrown at them. I'm going to take LSU. I'm going to lay the points. So I'm going to be comfortable doing it.
And I love that one. I was, I think I texted you. I said, this is an LSU team that's going to lose in the first round. And then the committee was like, never mind, take that. I've already mentioned I think Davidson gets it done against Michigan State on Friday. I like Houston over UAB on Friday. I think that Illinois-Chattanooga game obviously is going to be one to monitor as far to see where that one closes, but I'd be comfortable taking Chattanooga and the points there. And then one that's just kind of jumping off the page here preliminarily for me is this Alabama game. This Alabama-Notre Dame game.
Man, oh man.
Do
you go upset?
I think I might have to.
I know.
This Bama team is so uninspiring, and just we mentioned it's fun when mid majors shoot the shit out of the ball. It's not fun when 48% of a high majors team's looks are from beyond the arc, and they don't have like anybody like really lighting it up from back there. It's a bunch of good shooters, right? But it's not, you're not checking these guys from half court. So. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Give me Notre Dame.
Hell yeah. I think I might rock with you on Notre Dame as well. I'll round it out with you too, Tyson, doing a little speed round. Jacksonville State plus 15.5. Auburn struggled down the stretch. Jacksonville State can bomb it from 3. I mean, if you want to, we didn't mention this, but that could be something Auburn, they might be hitting the panic button in the first half. If Jacksonville State's hitting from beyond the arc, Purdue might destroy Yale by 30. I mean, minus 16.5. What are we doing here? I mean, that's really the number. I'll take that. Not question it. This Yale team, not very good. I'll take a Purdue team early who's hungry. USC minus 1.5 against Miami. I have no clue why this line's been sitting here. It doesn't concern me really. I think it's kind of one that's an afterthought for a lot of people when you look at this board. I like USC a lot to get it done. And then I'm going to lay it with Duke minus 18.5. What are you talking about? It's scary. And I think the last time actually they lost to Lehigh, they were in the West, which is a little scary in the West region. Fullerton's fine.
Are they even
okay
fine?
laying 20. Exactly. I think Duke's bigger. They played teams of this profile during the season. They've destroyed them. Those teams. I think they're going to be fine here. They're going to have a lot more size than Fullerton, which I think what Duke teams in the past who have lost to early round teams, they didn't have sheer size and strength and willpower that this team has. Later in the tournament, I think they may be tripped up, but I don't see it happening. I think they're going to blow out Fullerton.
No, and just something to keep in mind for everybody out there. If you're going to bet on a 15 or even really a 14, make sure they have a guy go and play in the NBA, because it's not the same deal as I can't even think really off the top of my head who's a good team at the top that doesn't have many NBA players on it, but it takes a CJ McCollum and it takes a Stephen Curry. This is why we know they become household names, because it's like, how in the hell? And then that guy all of a sudden is just dominating every time you're watching him play in the NBA. And when they don't have that, it's 101-52 with 8 minutes left in the second half.
Yeah, exactly. That well said, Tyson. Well, that's our March show, baby. March Madness begins. If you're listening to it, I mean, as always, you got to like, subscribe, and share, because this is coming out. You're gonna have until noon Eastern, until 10 Mountain, where Tyson's at, to listen to us. You probably have your bracket filled out, but if you want to get your picks in and your bet slips in, which actually what matters, cold hard cash, make sure to listen, share it with your friends. Maybe they're a little concerned about what's going on. Maybe they need to refill out their bracket. They got a late bracket thing coming in. So we appreciate the support as always, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you're watching us on YouTube. Follow us on the Instagram, the roundtable pod _ me on Twitter at BWakai, Tyson on Instagram at Tyson Gentry. Contact us there, ask questions. We'll answer it on the podcast. So don't be shy. We don't bite.
Yeah, and just a PSA, everybody out there, go ahead and download, what is it, the NCAA Tournament app or whatever it is. It's the best app.
ESPN?
No, the stream one.
Oh, March Madness Live.
Yeah, they take care of everybody. You can get whatever game it is. There's no excuse not to be watching. You can click out when your boss comes by, hit the little power button on the side of your iPhone.
And they have a work mode little thing. It brings up graphs and charts. It's actually pretty slick. So, like Tyson said, no excuse at all to not be joining the madness here. Yes. But as always, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you listen. And as always, we'll talk to you next time. Peace.